to her mother. The president encourages any American across the country with any knowledge of this suspect to please call the FBI, who continue to assist state and local authorities who are leading this investigation on the ground. And once again, I will reiterate that the prayers of this entire White House are with Savannah and her family at this time, and we hope this person is found soon and that her mother is brought home safely. President Trump has a very busy week ahead, so I will begin with some scheduling announcements today. Tomorrow here at the White House, the president will host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for a bilateral meeting. The remainder of the week will be focused on energy and deregulation. Tomorrow afternoon, the president will hold an event in the East Room to tout clean, beautiful coal as America's most reliable and affordable energy source, especially during periods of peak demand, just as we saw during this most recent winter storm, which impacted hundreds of millions of Americans. The president will discuss how clean, beautiful coal is not only keeping the lights on in our country, but also driving down the cost of electricity across the country as well.
Everything comes down to one question: is Nancy Guthrie still alive? Right? So an 84-year-old grandmother has vanished into thin air. We have watched hoaxes, ransom clocks, suspects, and door-to-door searches by the FBI. But the one thing we still don't have with all this technology is a clear, confirmed sign of life, no proof of life. Inside the FBI, this isn't just a case anymore. This is a countdown. For every hour that passes without real contact from Nancy or her abductor or whoever is another hour the odds tilt certainly in the wrong direction. And we had a note sent again to TMZ. The agents talk about working around the clock. The family talks about hope, but the clock does not care about either. So I'm breaking down what a race against time really looks like here inside an investigation like this, how professionals decide whether someone might still be alive, and what is to happen next if this is going to end with Nancy coming home. Hit subscribe, smash the like so this stream gets pushed out while we're live, and tell me in the chat, in your gut, seriously, do you think she's still out there or just waiting to be found? Let's hear from Harvey from TMZ. Let's go.
51 minutes past the hour, and we have some brand new reporting from TMZ as law enforcement zeroes in on the person spotted on Nancy Guthrie's porch camera. They report the FBI and the Sheriff's Department are now focusing on the specific items he was carrying in those photos: the gloves, the backpack, the gun. TMZ says investigators are contacting manufacturers trying to track down who bought that exact
So now they're looking at the actual items that he was
Fox News at
wearing.
9 anchor Trace Gallagher is live outside of Nancy Guthrie's home, where he'll be hosting his show tonight, live at 11 p.m. Eastern time. So Trace, tell us what is happening right now.
Uno, dos, Trace.
Well, right now, we just learned a couple of seconds ago, Sandra, that two men, we do not know if they are law enforcement. We don't know who they are, but two men have now walked back into Annie Guthrie's house, which is about 4.5 miles from here. So if we find out more about that, we'll let you know what's happening. But a little activity down in Annie Guthrie's neighborhood all day long. Yesterday, you had FBI agents talking to neighbors and kind of going through that area. We are at Nancy Guthrie's house, and this is at the base of the Catalina foothills. And the Catalina foothills is kind of the basis for the search today. From here on up north toward the actual Catalina foothill mountains, you have FBI agents kind of going and checking all the roads and seeing, you know, what they find. Nobody has told us specifically what they're looking for, but you can hear the news helicopters are up kind of tracking their progress. It is interesting because you mentioned the video, Sandra, and that is they're looking at the items, the gloves, the backpack. Where would you buy these things?
Exactly.
That's a big part of it. Another big part of this
and who bought them locally, checking the Amazons.
Thing is that if you look very closely at the video, there does not appear to be any blood at the very time that this video was taken, any blood on the front stoop of Nancy Guthrie's home. That's key because remember, there was that timeline from 1:47 until 2:21. Well, now, if Kash Patel, what they're telling us is correct, now it appears that if that is the 2:12 video that captured somebody and the pacemaker was went off at 2:28. Now, all of a sudden, that 41-minute window,
It
it
is
kind of
refreshed.
contracts to 16 minutes, and that could be a big deal in the overall investigation here. Also, very curious in last night's arrest, very curious. We shouldn't say arrest, detention. They were very careful about that. Detention of that person. Kash Patel told us there were, quoting, persons of interest, plural. We have not heard any more about who else might be part of that. And very quickly, Sandra, I want to say that since February 1st, the FBI has gotten 18,000 tip line calls, and in the past 24 hours, 4,000 of those calls came in. So
and that is so challenging to dig through those and know what is a real tip that comes in. And obviously, there's a lot of speculation that is happening. Paraphrasing Paul Murrow earlier, basically saying that tracing the clothing is going to be so key. He was suggesting that that particular, you know, top that the person was wearing on the porch, seen in the camera, was something more specific than a generic purchase, I should say. So hopefully, Trace, this is something that could lead them to the suspect.
Well, I mean, there's so much information in that video. That's the whole thing. Not just the person's walk, not just the eyebrows like we were talking about, and you know, things.
Now the word is that he thought he had cut the Wi-Fi signal already.
They did, but actually the clothing. I mean, they were already. Last night we were on the show and we had
what's going on?
We had Kirk Knudsen on, the cyber guy. He was talking about how it's so quick you can go in and find out where those gloves were sold, and the combination of the backpack and the gloves. Where were these all sold, and what time, what place? That is all going to be hugely important to the investigation.
Yeah, Trace, we will be watching you tonight live, 11 o'clock tonight.
Janda Panda,
your show, Fox News tonight. We'll be watching. Trace, thank you very much.
Super chat. Thank you so much.
John, we hope we're in a different place with this investigation by then.
Super chat.
Yeah, I mean, we had so much momentum yesterday, and it seems to have stalled out, but you never know. Things could pop any second. Great to have the Treasury Secretary on for the first time today, too.
Yeah, really loved having him. Hope he comes back soon. Everything that is about to happen with the housing market, the interest rates, it is all going to be
new Fed chairman, yeah.
So here we go. We're going to jump to yet another part of this story here.
Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Lieutenant Randy Sutton is on the ground in Tucson. He joins us now. Randy, good to see you again. Thanks for taking the time.
Just a couple of the options that they have here.
Sir, so what do you make of this? That, I mean, I don't want to say it's a kind of zigzag nature to this investigation, but you could be forgiven for thinking that they go out in the hills and they search and they come back and they say, we didn't find anything. Then they follow one lead and then they come back to searching again. You know, the other day they've got a dipstick down in a hole. We don't know if it was a septic tank or a sewer or something else. I mean, piece it out for us. Tell us what they're up to here.
Where is Nancy?
Well, I think there are two most likely scenarios here. They are clearly looking for something that I am going to venture a guess was tossed from a vehicle. That makes sense given the circumstances of this search. And they're putting a lot of personnel into it, which tells me that they're looking at this seriously. Now, I think there's two most likely scenarios. One is that they received a phone tip that said, if you do this, you may find this. And that would spur something like this on, maybe something a little more specific. You know, if you look for a phone, you might find it, that kind of thing. The other is I think more likely, and that is as the digital evidence comes in from the cell phone towers that the FBI has been examining, there could have been some indication that something was that they lost, you know, communications with a device or something. I think that may be more likely, but of course, I'm just surmising.
Right. So this investigation went from a snail's pace to a full gallop yesterday when the video information from the front doorbell of Nancy Guthrie came out. A man was briefly detained and let go. There was also a search conducted of a residence in Rio Rico. Here's what the Pima County Sheriff said about that. Investigators have completed their search of a property in Rio Rico. Nancy Guthrie investigation is ongoing. No further details at this time. Despite the new momentum yesterday, it's looking like this could go on for a long time. Here's what Kash Patel said last night.
I do believe we are looking at people who, as we say, are persons of interest. But as you know, with any investigation, you are a person of interest until you're either eliminated or you're actually found to be the culprit or the culprit's involved. And that's the stage we're at right now.
Okay.
Well, so there's, you get a tip, you get a lot of police activity, but so far, no joy.
No, unfortunately, you're right. And yesterday when the determination came out that they were going to leave, we saw the SWAT trucks leave here and go to a property down in Rio Rico, and that there had been a vehicle stop made and someone detained. There was a lot of excitement, a lot of thoughts that perhaps this was coming to a conclusion. But this is the problem with law enforcement investigations. You're going to run into dead ends. What it did show, though, is that they are actively pursuing these leads. This is good policing. And we have seen that, as the days tick by, we saw inertia, in the last, after the first couple of days there was some inertia. And then when this incredible videotape was released to the public, it is without a doubt causing a deluge of tips coming in.
And that's probably what it would do. It would trigger, because then you have a visual. So now let's jump over to Harvey Levin over at TMZ. They actually sent him the third note. Is this a ransom note? Well, sort of. Have a listen.
TMZ has received another email from somebody demanding
Stop
money.
sending me these.
This is somebody who says they have been trying to get in touch with Savannah Guthrie's sister, Annie, and Savannah's brother to no avail. And they are now saying that they have information about who the kidnapper is, and they are demanding money. They want 1 Bitcoin, which is around $55,000, $56,000, depending on the hour. They are saying at the end, time is more than relevant. So they have a Bitcoin address, which we have verified.
Why do you hold it so close to his face?
Is real, and that they want 1 Bitcoin deposited. So in return for giving information about the identity.
The reward is 50,000. So whoever is emailing this says, "Oh, just give me 1 Bitcoin, and I'll tell you who it is." Jeez.
Of the kidnapper. Now,
that doesn't seem legal.
Again, this is not somebody who says they've kidnapped Nancy. It's somebody who says they know who has. We have no idea if this is authentic. We have forwarded it on to the FBI, and they are looking at it. And we got this early Wednesday morning. Beyond that, we have already told you that there has now been activity in this Bitcoin account that was included in the first ransom note that we received. We are not saying what kind of activity, how much money. I know there is another story out there about that. We are not going to comment on that. We gave our word to people and involved in this case. We are going to honor that, but only to say that there is activity.
Hit that like button for me, guys.
And that means something. A couple of other points. There has been a lot of talk on social media about who may be behind this kidnapping. And I'm just going to kind of put this on the table, that there have been people pointing to various people in the family. When we do this, when we talk, on television, on our website, on our, digitally, on our social media, I think we should be addressing people on social media and not just people who are watching traditional media, because social media is where a lot of people get their information. And I know this is swirling on social media, so I just want to say this, that we do not have any information,
thank you for being a member for 14 months and beyond,
that would implicate family members. I am not saying that it's true that somebody may be involved or not true, but I am telling you that we have spoken with numerous people. We are not hearing anything about that. I know there are lots of stories out there that so-and-so is being looked at or whatever. I am telling you, We've gone down that path. We've asked questions.
And according to JLR, which I saw earlier, a woman from the neighborhood came out and said, hey, the parents, he's a teacher. So all the parents from the school are supporting him. They say he's a great guy. So unlikely involvement.
Absolutely no basis to say that is true in any way, shape, or form. So in terms of leads, to me, there are 3 leads right now. One is, given the videos, we know that this is somebody who is somewhat stocky. It is a male. It's somebody who has a mustache and either a goatee or a beard. Law enforcement has told us, people involved in this investigation, that they believe that whoever took Nancy is from the Tucson television area. And that's why, or one of the reasons why, they were sending notes not just to us, but to local television stations there. So at least now they've got that description. On top of that description, if the email that we received is written by the same person who came to Nancy's door the night she was kidnapped, it would be an intelligent person based on the construction of that email, as well as somebody who is tech savvy. So in terms of people calling authorities with clues, it is somebody, it would seem, who is tech savvy, who is intelligent, who is somewhat stocky, a male with a mustache and either a goatee or beard. That is something. And there may be something identifying about what that person was wearing. So that's one path. A second path is Bitcoin, and I will just leave it at that.
Bitcoin.
And the third path is, one of the things that authorities do all the time when they get a video like this of somebody who they believe is the kidnapper, is they look at what they're wearing and they try and find out, where did they buy it? So, you look at the gloves and they seem bizarre. And there are things about the getup that are unusual. And so if the authorities can figure out where these things were purchased, because you look at that and is it something somebody would just have in their house, or is it something they would go out to buy within a fairly narrow time frame before actually doing it? And a lot of people who do that think, okay, I'll pay cash and therefore there's going to be no record of me buying it. But there are records that many stores have where they can find out who purchased an item like that and when. And if there is surveillance video in the store, if they bought it at a big store like a Home Depot or something like that, and they can find out even when somebody purchases something with cash, if they have a time frame on when they purchased it.
I don't know, Elizabeth. Elizabeth says, what does she have to do with Bitcoin? That's a good question.
Gotten surveillance video, looked exactly at that time, and sure enough, they have somebody going to the cash register with that item. And that becomes almost a smoking gun. So the person who did that is not going to walk in completely masked, because that in itself creates an issue. So if they came in street clothes and bought any one of those items, then that could be a real way, and a way that authorities have done in many cases in the past, of identifying who was at that door.
Oh man, finish the sentence already. Okay, so we're going to cut over here. So this is a little more about the new note, some different angles here.
Which means after he
hit that like button for me, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you. Welcome, everyone.
Pulled it out, it's still reporting to the Wi-Fi, which is how they reconstructed the video that we've all seen. Understand what goes on there. It's
like
not film. I know we think it's film. It's digital. It's bytes. It's digital information. It's code. And then what happens is it goes to the Wi-Fi. It goes from the Wi-Fi to Google, and Google translates it into something that looks like a movie. If you pay the subscription, you can get to see it. If you don't pay, it stays as code. So that's why it took 10 days. Google had to take that code, which luckily was still in the Wi-Fi. That's my judgment. That's where they got it, because it didn't overwrite because she wasn't there, so there wasn't a lot of activity. So they were able to get to enough of that code. You notice it's not perfect, but enough of it had survived that they could create what we saw. So my hope is that what they're doing now is, if the thing kept reporting, the perpetrator may very well have taken it in the car. And you may get something out of that, including audio. And that could be a break, because these things do pick up audio. So maybe you get his voice, maybe you get something else. I'm sure they're scraping very hard at all of this.
Paul, it's Harris. You know, you're kind of pointing to something that a former homicide detective told me last hour on the Faulkner Focus. Chris Anderson said he was looking for those points that showed that this guy perhaps was not as sophisticated as people might have initially thought, or, you know, maybe those Bitcoin demands early on might not have been this guy because he doesn't seem that sophisticated about technology for some of the reasons that you're talking about. But then he went to something rather basic. He said, look at the way he's wearing the gun. He said, you don't wear a gun on your stomach because it's easy for somebody to grab that and use it against you. Talk to me about the aspect of why all of that would matter about whether or not he was sophisticated in what he's doing and how easy or hard that makes it to catch him.
You know, and this is really supposition on my part, but there's something about this guy, the way he moves, how casual he is. He's entirely unconcerned. That I get a feeling of very sort of low functioning. And this is why I say that. Not only is he unconcerned in a situation where he should be highly pressured, but he does that thing with the plant, which makes zero sense. You know, who picks up a plant to try to obfuscate the view of a camera? Even if he had taken
This guy did. We noticed that last night.
Handful of dirt, which there's no shortage of down here, and smeared it on the lens, that makes more sense to me. But he takes a plant, he starts, I mean, how would you even affix a small plant to the exterior of a ring camera, a nest camera? So that alone strikes me as very, very off. And of course, somebody who would do this is off by definition. And so when it comes to the gun, the weight of gun, I know there's been a lot of speculation. It looks like he's got a semi-automatic handgun, but it's in a kind of holster that looks like it would be for maybe a revolver. He's got it in the front. And then we see the images where he doesn't seem to have it at all. So he took it off. I guess he left it in the car or something. So, yeah, I don't know. I've heard from people down here that apparently there's a thing with some gangbangers, and I don't want to start any internet rumors or anything, that sometimes they keep it on the left side so that when they're driving, they can reach across and grab it. I wouldn't put a lot of stock in any of that, but I do agree with the homicide detective that this guy is not some arch criminal. This is not the James Bond. What concerns me is that he went in with a packed knapsack. You don't, if you're a burglar and it's a burglary gone bad, you leave with that kind of knapsack. You don't go in. What's in that knapsack?
Paul, final question for you for this segment. Arizona is known for its sort of strength of the privacy laws. And are there any intersects between that and using, for example, facial recognition technology as best that they can with this individual wearing the mask? Are you running into anything like that there on the ground as law enforcement works to identify this individual using whatever type of eye-in-the-sky technology exists there in Arizona?
Yeah, very interesting question. Look, you're going to get, as we saw last night, you're going to get search warrants, and you're going to get them fast. So if you're bumping into any proper, I'm not saying they're improper, but any of the legal strictures that are in place here to guard privacy, then your recourse is to get to a judge, maybe a federal judge. It's not clear to me, by the way, who did the search warrant last night, the state or the feds. I'm trying to get the warrant, as I said. But you're going to get the legal process you need from a judge in a circumstance like this, because remember, she is still missing, and there's that added pressure of not only getting to bed.
She is still missing, and this is one of the ways that some of these other investigators feel like this case could be blown wide open. We got a lot of show for you tonight. Hit the like button. Stay with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum, and this is the story. We have major developments in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, 84-year-old mom to Savannah Guthrie. She was last seen, Mrs. Guthrie, 11 days ago now.
11
days. The FBI has
did.
been launching an extensive search.
Wow.
We see investigators out on foot in a very large area in the Catalina foothills. And we're going to give you some proximity on how far that is from the Guthrie home in just a moment. But that comes more than 24 hours after the release, stunning release yesterday. This was a huge, huge development in this case of these images that you see on your screen. That's the search area that you're looking at, right? Thank you so
much. After I saw the Nest Cam footage, I think she left this world before being taken from her house. But why? No value taken. Not a home invasion. That's a good point. Thank you so much for the super chat, Janda Panda.
And then let's put up these images that appeared yesterday, which have really broken this open in a huge way. This man walking into Mrs. Guthrie's front porch around the time she is believed to have vanished from that home. Now, the images reportedly leading to a very dramatic uptick, as you would expect. This is why the FBI released them. Lots and lots of new phone calls, new tips as people get a look at the eyes of this individual, the gait, his height, his size, and try to figure out if this is somebody that they know and can help the FBI with. So TMZ founder Harvey Levin had another development. He tells Fox that he received a third note. They have received some of the prior notes with regard to this ransom that may or may not be factual. In this one, someone claimed to know who the kidnapper is. So we're going to get you more information on that. A lot floating around. So we have to be careful as we watch all this come in. But we kick things off right now with our senior correspondent, Alicia Acuna, who is live outside Annie Guthrie, the daughter's home right now, with some new information.
Outside of
Hi,
Annie
Alicia.
Guthrie's house. Whoa.
Hi, Martha. And this just happened within the last few minutes here. We saw an unmarked vehicle come up to the front of the home, and we saw what we believe were two agents. They walked inside the house. They weren't in there for more than 10 minutes, I would say, and they came out, the two agents. One was carrying two different bags. One was a brown paper bag, one looked like a white plastic bag. The other agent also had on latex gloves. And then they checked the mailbox right before they left and drove away. Our producer, Alex Rego, was shouting questions at them, just trying to get some clarification of why they are here. They, of course, did not answer in that moment. But a reminder, on Saturday, we also saw quite a bit of activity at this home behind me when you had agents from the FBI and investigators from the Sheriff's Department coming here at 8:30 at night. They went into that house. They were in the garage, and our team saw flashes of light like someone was taking pictures in there, and then also in a whole other different part of the home. They were here for 2.5 hours. Also left with a brown paper bag, and they had some sort of folding table with them as well. Keep in mind, this is all happening as the FBI says they are also on foot right now, searching portions of the foothills, which is also where Nancy Guthrie's home is located. It's in the foothills of the Catalina Mountains. They're out there doing a search as well. We've seen them walking the lines of the roads, and we've also seen them in the brush doing a search. So this is a very active investigation, and it continues. Martha?
Good information, Alicia. Thank you very much. Obviously, you'll let us know if we see agents returning to Annie Guthrie.
April says, I live in AZ. This is just insane. I hope they find her. And who's done this?
Guthrie's home. We've seen it a couple of times now, and they left, as you say, moments ago with a couple of bags in hand after they came out of that home. With that, we bring in former FBI Special Agent and criminal defense attorney Stuart Kaplan. Stuart, great to have you with us.
She did speak with some of the Epstein victims,
What's your reaction to this latest information from Alicia Acuna on the scene there?
Well, Martha, let me unpack a lot of things. Number one is the first priority to the FBI is to try to locate and return Nancy Guthrie to her family safe and sound. And I think we can all agree that to some extent the FBI may not be able to control that outcome. Number two is, and there's been a lot of criticism today, it seems that the investigation has stalled, or why is there a lag? Why don't we see as much flurry of activity as we saw yesterday? The FBI, if they're going to apprehend and arrest someone and prosecute that person not only has to be the right person, but they have to get him right. What does that mean? That means this case, absent the person coming in and confessing and turning himself in, it's going to be a circumstantial evidence case. That means that the FBI must cross the T's and dot the I's, because all of this circumstantial evidence is open for challenge in a court of law if and when they apprehend the individuals or the individual that is responsible.
The distraction.
So that's why you see this kind of behind the scenes, I think, not as much flurry as activity, but I can tell you that the FBI is working around the clock. Number three, this video, or the pictures that were released yesterday, facial recognition, which has not really been touched upon, relies upon geometrical measurements or geometrical mapping. Notwithstanding this individual is wearing a mask, there are enough geometrical measurements that can be elicited from those pictures in that video that the FBI is using very, very sophisticated technology, which is not known to the public, or available to the public to perhaps be able to narrow those persons of interest to positively identify that individual that was captured on that doorbell camera.
Absolutely.
So let me just say, and I said it several days ago, technology in this case is at the forefront. The FBI has deployed some very, very sophisticated technology normally not seen or not visible to the general public. This case is going to crack wide open. Now, with respect to the FBI returning to Annie Guthrie's house, obviously, when you take a look at the statistics of abductions or kidnappings, sometimes, unfortunately, they lead right back to a family member. And look, we don't really want to go down that road because of the people that are involved in this particular case, but there seems to be something that continues to draw them back, and it just may be either to include or to exclude those individuals that reside in that house.
Yeah, while you have been speaking, we've been watching over and over. And this is brand new video just in that we're looking at. Alicia Acuna, our reporter on the scene, told us that Annie Guthrie's house is once again where the FBI is conducting this search. And when you see, we'll show it to you in a second again, these two individuals walking out of the house. They have,
Darren says, I hope she's still alive.
Two individuals in this investigation, a white garbage bag tied at the top, and then like a shopping bag that they put into their vehicle. Then the other agent wraps around. He takes one quick look in the mailbox, and then they get in the car and take this away. So this comes after a couple of nights ago. We saw flashes of light inside that house at Annie Guthrie's. What can you tell us when you look at sort of the demeanor of these actions that we're seeing of these two agents here on this video, Stuart?
Well, clearly, that's the continuation of the collection of evidence. And when you see, for example, the gentleman wearing the blue latex gloves, that
it says pencil monkey lemon. Okay.
Whatever was turned over voluntarily by the family to these agents, that whatever that is going to go back to either Quantico, Virginia, or to a local sheriff's department's laboratory for forensic analysis. But keep in mind, again, that video yesterday was very, very telling with respect to a backpack, sneakers, a holster, a sweatshirt, a mask. And again, technology is being utilized and deployed to narrow down where that article of clothing may have been sold, who had access to it, who purchased it. Again, we're crossing the T's and dotting the I's, and we're narrowing the field of potential subjects, and we're zeroing in almost to the point where it's very close to being able to resolve this case.
Right. Well, I hope you're right. One of the things that I know from speaking with another former FBI agent is just in terms of the digital footprint that they're getting. It takes a little while to get this going.
Some people think it's the daughter. I don't know.
They will be able, through the cellular analysis survey team, to gather every piece of cell phone.
April says they wouldn't
individuals
be in
that they're looking at and talking to,
had something to do
find
with
out who they were speaking to in this area. It's a fairly sparsely populated area, so it limits, some of the amount of numbers that they have to go through, but it does take time. And then with each day that passes, it feels like they're getting more of that information, Stuart. And that is probably the reason that they come back to certain places as they pursue this, right?
100%. And just so you know, the digital footprint, we call it digital footprint exhaust. And so when you're moving about with your Apple Watch or your iPhone or whatever smartphone, those phones, those devices are pinging off of cell phone towers. And that gives a lot of geographical location information. And so we may be able to capture some cell phone data in or around Nancy's house, cross-reference it by way of example of a place that may have sold that type of article of clothing, a backpack, a pair of sneakers, a holster. Again, we're taking all of this information, all of these data, all of these crumbs, and we're trying to build a puzzle. And I use the analogy of you have a picture of on the box of a puzzle, what it's supposed to look like when you put it all together. We're picking up the pieces of the puzzle, and we're slowly and methodically putting it together so that
Well, that's what you have to do in any case. We're going to move on to some of the unusual things about the ransom note here. There is Nancy Guthrie. No matter what, I hope the lady comes home and is reunited with her family alive. Right? But I mean, she's going to have
Day
to
11 of the
go
search for
right to the
Nancy
hospital,
Guthrie.
I would imagine. I mean,
Investigators
if they
racing
even find her alive, right to the hospital.
against the clock, and they returned to both Nancy and Annie Guthrie's homes this afternoon. Two officials were seen leaving Annie's house with a bag in their hand, and they checked the mailbox as well. Now, every second counts as they try to track down this person you are seeing on the screen, caught on camera on Nancy Guthrie's porch the night she went missing. Last night, a person was detained for questioning but has been released. However, FBI Director Kash Patel says the Bureau is looking at multiple persons, plural, of interest.
I do believe we are looking at people who, as we say, are persons of interest. But as you know, with any investigation, you are a person of interest until you're either eliminated or you're actually found to be the culprit or the culprits involved. And that's the stage we're at right now.
Let's go to Alicia Acuna, who is on the ground in Tucson. Alicia.
Hi, Kaylee. The New York Post is now reporting that the FBI has found a black glove about a mile and a half.
Oh, this is
from
another
Nancy
thing.
Guthrie's home, and
They found one of the black gloves. I don't know if it's the black glove, but they found a black glove pretty close by.
Found in the shrubbery. There was a search today, and I'll get into that in just a moment. But for right now, I want to discuss a little of the activity that our cameras caught at Annie Guthrie's home. They were here for just a short period of time. There were a couple of hours ago, an unmarked SUV pulled up. Two men walked inside. They were there for maybe 15 minutes. They appeared to be agents of some sort, but it's also possible they are part of the Guthrie private security. Our producer shouted questions, didn't get any answers, but one of the men carried out a couple of bags from the home, and the other was wearing latex gloves. We've reached out to the FBI for confirmation on whether this was part of the investigation or something else. Earlier today at Nancy Guthrie's home, this man drove up to the property and left some sort of signage with a sheriff's deputy. Interestingly, he told a local TV station he was a private investigator for the family. This is the first time we've heard of the Guthries hiring a private investigator.
That's interesting.
Also today, we have video of FBI agents who were out today in the area just to the north and surrounding streets of Nancy's house. The Bureau confirming in a statement this morning, numerous FBI agents were conducting an extensive search along multiple roadways in the Catalina foothills area related to the Nancy Guthrie investigation. Last night, law enforcement briefly detained a man in Rio Rico, Arizona, south of Tucson. Matt Finn reports the FBI tells Fox News Carlos Palazuelos was not pinpointed solely off of that footage of a person on Nancy Guthrie's Nest Cam. Kaylee, Palazuelos tells Fox News that the FBI took his phone, may still have it, so we will await updates on that as well. Kaylee?
Alicia, thank you. Let's bring in former NYPD inspector and current Fox News contributor Paul Morrow in Tucson. Paul, I'm looking at this New York Post reporting. Apparently there's images, according to the New York Post, of these investigators pulling the glove, the black glove, which resembled that in the video, from the shrubbery. Curious, is this connected to that Catalina foothills search? And second, can they get DNA off this glove?
Maybe.
Well, if it is, in fact, one of the gloves that the perpetrator wore at the scenes, then, of course, this would be a very, very big break because of the possible DNA analysis that we've talked about, Kaylee. You and I have talked about it many times.
That would be wild if they found that glove.
Which was,
and how stupid would somebody be to throw that glove anywhere near that house? You know what I mean? I mean, Jesus.
Will you use
if that's the glove, the perp is dumber than anybody could ever imagine.
IgG DNA, that is the DNA that is familial, and so you have a much, much greater shot of getting to somebody who is linked to your suspect as opposed to a one-to-one hit, which is a very, very remote possibility. That said, the idea that they've only found one glove, it's pretty far from the scene, and the fact that somebody who was very clearly extremely cautious, he was roped up foot to head to make sure. In fact, I think he was had two hoods on just to make sure he didn't leave any DNA. He throws one glove out the window as he leaves the scene. It's a little bit much to believe at this point, but perps do crazy things that are inexplicable, and this would be a big, big break, and I'm sure it is related to that search.
Paul, thank you. One last question, and then we're going to broaden it out in the table here. There was some new reporting from Matt Finn that the look of the individual alone in the camera is not what led to the detainment of Carlos. I would have suspected that because they would have had to have a search warrant. Any indication as to what the other information was?
Not really. I'd heard that there is, potentially some digital stuff. This is what I'm reading into that. He's a delivery driver. And they asked him, in fact, Matt Finn asked him directly, have you delivered to the house in question? And he said something like, I very well might have. So if I had to guess, and I'm guessing, I would think that they did some sort of a digital search relative to either people who have delivered to that place or people who have maybe put it into a mapping service.
I mean, we've all seen that show 48 Hours for the cops. You got to find them within 48 hours or else.
Apps to see if they can find their way to it. And they might have got a hit on him. And so the confluence of those factors got them enough.
I don't think
to
it's
get over the
looking
hump
good
for the federal
for
search
old
warrant.
Nancy.
But remember
to be
something
honest.
else, too.
It's a shame.
In a ransom situation, a kidnapping, there's probable cause and then there's probable cause. And I would argue that in a pressured situation like this, where a woman's life
I
is
don't
on
think
the
it's
line,
the family, but I think it's definitely someone close to the family, someone who knows the family.
that bar comes down a bit. So we do have to bear that in mind. But it sounds like there was more than one factor. A couple of things likely came together. But as of now, he's not under arrest.
Dana, I mean, I'm looking at this picture of the glove at the New York Post, and we hope it's the perpetrator's glove, but we've seen what we thought was a detainment that led to nothing.
And it's also 11 days later. So, I mean, well, if that's the case, then they just found it. That would be
Get Mel
strange.
Gibson.
But they haven't had bad weather either. So
Fantastic
that might be
idea.
the case. I would also ask this, Paul, can you help us make sense of these ransom notes that are going to TMZ? On Newsroom this morning, Harvey Levin said an hour and a half ago, we just got another one. But it was somebody who said that they know who the kidnappers are, but they're also asking for Bitcoin. And maybe that all rings true to some.
Everybody
And
wants
for me, I
Bitcoin.
find it just a little bit hard to believe. But I wonder if you have a better sense of that.
No, I'm with you. The audience for this case is unfortunately global. And so you're talking about millions of people who are following this, and all you need is a few knuckleheads who want to pile on. The even first two that had the Bitcoin wallet, the first two emails,
A few
had
knuckleheads.
the patina of a ransomware case to me. It's very similar to how the ransomware gangs operate from behind Russia, and they're impossible to get to. And the fact that they were just so completely unwilling to provide any signs of life, any images, something from inside the house that they saw, because the stuff that they did provide was very, very thin and potentially gleanable, I would argue, from media reports. So I lean against all of these letters until I'm shown otherwise. I don't know why they put the money into the account, maybe to just see if it works, maybe to see if it provided an alert to him. And so somehow or other they could see a packet move to him that said, hey, there's money in the account, some deep dive thing that they did in the cyber world. I don't see how $300 would entice him to come forward and smoke him out. And there's also the possibility that it is bad guys, as I said, who are normally stealing identities and stuff, and they just went back to business as usual, and the $300 that's in the account is them selling identities because their attempt at this ripoff didn't work.
Right.
Jesse.
Paul.
I mean, I think it definitely had something to do with some sort of scam. Let's take a look out on the scene with JLR. This is live footage from right outside of Tucson, Pima County, Arizona. I believe this is at Annie Guthrie's house, the sister. And I was listening to a story earlier right here at JLR, and they were saying how Tommaso, who's a teacher at the local school, all the parents are supporting him because he is such a great guy, is what they said. So it could be unlikely that he's involved if he has such a backing of the community. But, a lot of times the serial killers are very charming. Ted Bundy. Well, the camera doesn't lie, so it's right there. And not everybody has this vantage point. And we will get back to that. We're going to finish this side of the story. Yep. I mean, if he's a serial killer, who knows? Looking for him. Oops.
In wearing gloves and using plastic bags because they just want to make sure that there's no argument later that they in any way tainted something that could presumably become part of the case. Now, again, that's an assumption. I'm not sure about that. If that is still an evidence search team, it strikes me that it was fairly casual. You send two people back, they go in, they're in there for not all that long, and then they come out with a couple of plastic bags. That's not really how you're gathering evidence. There are forms, there are envelopes that it goes in, that you seal it, it stays in there. You don't walk out casually swinging a plastic bag. So, I lean against it at this point, still being evidence collection. But anything's possible in this case. It's been very, very surprising.
Greg?
So, Paul, I want to revisit my strategy to solving this case, and that would be having the least likely suspect, Savannah Guthrie, offer to do a polygraph, which will then put necessary pressure on others inside and outside the circle to do the same. Since no one has been ruled out, it's one step forward in ruling in, and anybody who says no or bristles looks unusual. What do you say to that?
What do you guys think about a polygraph test?
Well,
What do you
my
think,
understanding
Chad?
as of now is that they haven't done anything relative to a polygraph. I'm not sure we would have necessarily have heard, but I think we would, the way things have been going out here. And as we all know, it's not admissible in court, but it can be a pointer. I said, look, I am surprised a little bit that we haven't heard to that kind of thinking, more in terms of a reward, to put pressure on somebody who is potentially around the perpetrators to come forward. And I understand what you're saying. If one of the primary victims here says, okay, I'll volunteer to do this, let's see what happens with others. I get that. You're trying to smoke people out that might be close to the situation. But I think a good way to smoke out people that are close to the situation is to offer a life-changing a reward. And I understand we don't want to incentivize people to kidnap in the future. Of course, I get that. But at this point, with an 84-year-old woman missing for a week and a half, I think you're at the point where you got to do something that's fairly extreme. So as far as Savannah doing that, obviously that's going to be her personal call. I don't know if they've discussed it. It may argue that inside the family, they are perfectly happy with the way things have gone in terms of the investigation. Obviously, they haven't gotten their mother. But I'm going to the idea that the family has been cooperative, and inside the family, they must feel that everybody is being forthright, and that's not where the investigation should go.
Welcome back.
Paul, we heard a lot yesterday the phrase tickling the wire, which is a phrase that I am unfamiliar with, but apparently is very common in law enforcement lexicon. So we have this big break in terms of the picture, the images, the video that we saw yesterday. Did that tickle the wire? Was there a bombardment to the two phone numbers we have up on the screen constantly? And how do they sift through the information to actually find those persons of interest?
Yeah, so generally tickling the wire is used in the wiretap context. You have a wiretap that isn't really producing a whole heck of a lot. You have an investigation ongoing, and you do something outside the wiretap to get the bad guys talking about what happened on the wire so that you can hear their reaction and you move the whole thing forward. And that you usually do that with an undercover or an informant who is under your control. In this case, it's a slightly different context. Tickling the wire here, I think the closest thing to that sort of analogy is what they did with the Bitcoin, assuming that that was in fact the FBI to put the $300 in. Like I said, I think they were probably hoping to tickle the Bitcoin wire, so to speak, to get him either reaching in for the paltry amount of money, or maybe, as I said, seeing an alert go out or seeing him log in to check if it's there or something like that, give them a data point to work with. And the other thing, of course, that could tickle the entire wire of the investigation writ large was the release of those videos. And they had to do that. And understand, that's not an easy decision to make. We've seen it in a number of cases recently, like Tyler Robinson. They didn't want to necessarily put out that video and alert him that, hey, we have images of you, whoever did this to Charlie Kirk. But they made the mature decision to say, yeah, people are going to say we couldn't solve it, the public solved it. Who cares? You put it out if it's going to end this thing. They made that decision in the Charlie Kirk case. They did the right thing here. They had good imagery. They put it out. Hopefully, they can get more. There's an argument that what they did here, they're going to be able to continue to
What
go
about
forward
cadaver
with,
dogs?
do more of decoding of those code packets that ultimately produce video that they were able to recover from the cache in the Wi-Fi.
Actually, just here to
and
send.
maybe you're
That's
going to get
cool.
more
You
from
like
that camera. Maybe you could get audio. Nest cameras have audio. You could hear his voice. There's other cameras there. Maybe some of those other cameras are going to produce. We know at least one other camera alerted at some point after that camera. I'm sure they're scraping hard at that. This stuff's not easy. Google did it in 10 days. I'm sure they put their best foot forward, went at the thing that they thought was going to be most productive. But now I'm sure they're trying to get at other stuff. And so, yeah, and it may tickle the wire of somebody coming forward and saying, I see enough of that guy's walk, which is always very distinctive. That's what I'd be interested in.
Hey, guys.
If we could get, even if he's all
Welcome.
masked up, if we get
Hit the like button.
3 seconds of him really walking clearly, I think that there's a very good chance you're going to get somebody to say, I absolutely know who that is.
And I think that's what's going to happen. Someone is going to know exactly who that is. Let's have a listen to Brian Enton, who was on the scene earlier today, with some of his takes. He's very good. He's very good, this guy. He's very good, this guy.
Appreciate all the support. I'm, of course, still in Tucson, Arizona. I'm outside Nancy Guthrie's house right here. You can see all the media across the street. There's been a lot going on over the last 12 hours or so that I want to get to. First of all, law enforcement was back at Annie Guthrie's house just a little while ago. Right now it's, gosh, I'm losing track of my days. It's Wednesday, depending on when you're watching this story or watching this this episode. They were back at Annie Guthrie's house. There were 2 law enforcement agents that showed up in a gray SUV. They went inside the house. They came outside the house with latex gloves on. And they were holding a brown bag. They were not in the house for long. And then they also went and got mail out of the mailbox, again, wearing the gloves, and then they left. So it was not like what we saw on Saturday night where they were there for 3 hours and we saw pictures being taken inside. That wasn't the case. It was quick. They went in, they had gloves on, they came out with the brown bag, and then they also checked the mail. So that is the latest development that happened at Annie's house. The FBI today is reporting that they are going to be doing ground searches along roadways in the Catalina foothills around where Nancy and Annie live. And when I was out at Annie's house yesterday and I saw the FBI going door to door, they asked one of the neighbors for permission to search, and then the neighbor said, well, what are you looking for? And they said something that may have been dropped, which makes me think when you look back at those pictures of the suspect, what he was wearing, the mask, the backpack, the gloves, all of that, are they looking to see if something was maybe thrown out of a car window? Because we know today the search is specifically directed along roadways. So that's the latest from the FBI. Pima County Sheriff's Office says that there will be no updates today, no briefings unless there's a development, which kind of surprised me in light of what happened last night. You guys remember they had that.
Last night was insane, you guys, with this, potential suspect that they had and pulling him over and going into his house. That was crazy.
Person detained who has since been let go. I raced out an hour away from Tucson, very, very close to the Mexico border. I went I shouldn't say this, but I was going like 100 miles an hour trying to get there when I got the tip that they had this person detained. There was a federal search warrant that was being executed at the house. The family members of the guy were like, there's no way he's involved in Nancy Guthrie. We don't know about the case. He wasn't out of town last weekend. He doesn't know anything about Bitcoin. And I talked to them, and come to find out a few hours later, he was released He was detained and then released, and it appears he has nothing to do with the case, although we'll have to see. I mean, they must have had something in that search warrant to be able to go search the house and detain him. So I'll stay on top of that, try to figure out how all of that sorts out today. But again, I was hoping thered be some kind of press briefing from the sheriff, and that doesn't appear like it's going to happen. I want to go to Kurt Dabb, who is was a longtime homicide detective here in Pima County, to help me break down these latest developments, especially what happened last night with this man being detained, and sort of what he thinks about where things are going to go from here. What do you make of what happened last night? I mean, we raced down to, near the Mexico border. They had him detained, and then now he walked out. What do you think happened there?
I don't know what leads specifically led them, to that individual. Extremely grateful for the technology that, the FBI has to recover some video, and I'm hoping that they have other video that they're holding back. But yeah, it was a complete surprise to me. I saw the detention last night. I went to bed and woke up this morning and praying, that it was the suspect, and then, that individual was released. So what often happens in homicide investigations, you have to follow leads as they come in. Earlier in our other interview, I spoke about you have to start working that circle
everybody,
outwards,
hit that like
right?
button,
And I
come
mentioned
in,
Uber
come in.
drivers, delivery drivers. So I'm guessing that's what that individual was. I listened to his interview. He may or may not have delivered a package in that area. So it's good to see that they're following up on the investigation, on the leads. And with a situation like this, you know that the bad guy was armed because you saw it on the camera. So we, and law enforcement, we formally, but they have to take precautions. So it didn't surprise me the amount of individuals and the type of units that they use for this detention. But that's what happens. Leads are going to pan out and they're not going to pan out. So you have to suss everyone out.
In your experience, they did a search warrant at the house. They had him.
I could be Bad Bunny's daddy.
And they got him at a traffic stop. They took him back to headquarters. Would that have indicated that they thought they had something significant? I mean, you don't just do that to every other Uber driver, right?
Yeah, no, you're not just going to detain somebody and transport them back somewhere. But again, they were following up on a lead, and I think we can extrapolate from what's been going on that he was a delivery driver. He may or may not have been in that area. I'm assuming he probably was. They're just not. I used to tell bad guys this all the time. Look, I didn't just pick your name out of a phone book randomly, right? So
yeah, it's behind me.
He was a delivery driver, was in the neighborhood, and they were following up on the lead on a potentially armed and dangerous individual.
What's your sense on where things stand now? Because I don't know, one of my buddies in the FBI was saying we don't ever, and he's not involved in this case, but he was saying we don't like to release photos. Like if the FBI is releasing photos, it means that they actually need help.
Former Pima County.
It's the same way with the sheriff's department. If we're tracking,
this guy he's talking to used to be a detective in Pima County. He is retired, and he's sort of just, giving him some information.
Suspect. You can look at it either way, right? You can put, if you have a suspect and you have a photograph, you're more than likely going to have eyes on that individual, meaning you're going to be surveilling him. And a lot of times they'll release something in the media to garner an action out of the individual that they're looking for. Whether or not that was the case last night, I'm not sure. But, that's what it is.
Do you think, because he was pulled over not far from where he lived, I found out when I was out there, do you think that means that he was under surveillance? Like, do you think they had eyes on him before this, and then something happened where they decided, let's get him?
I'm assuming so, yes. Because just because you have a named individual that you're looking into, and again, this person at that time was an investigative lead. So you can't just, out of the blue, decide to go drive somewhere and hope that the individual is going to be...
And if you're close by there, why would you throw the glove out of the window close by the house?
Where you think they're going to be. So I would assume that
they
had
double deserve to get caught now.
Some type of surveillance. I understand the FBI brought in a bunch more people yesterday or the day before. Maybe it was FBI information that they were acting on, contacted the sheriff's department, said, hey, let's roll. I don't know if that's what the case was, but it possibly could be.
Do you think that there could be other people under surveillance right now? What does your gut tell you?
I would hope so, but that's, just my guess. Like, everybody has theories about what's going on, and theories are like, everyone has one. So your theory is as good as mine, and I'm just hoping that, I'm hoping they have information that they haven't released yet that they're utilizing to further the investigation, whether it's surveillance, whether it's like yesterday walking around, picking up or doing an article search. That's what they were doing. They were looking for an article of something that maybe the kidnapper had discarded. So
we were told last night out there that the sheriff had been there. He was gone by the time we got there.
Been
to the place where Rio Rico. Yeah,
okay.
Rio Rico. Is that significant? I mean,
no, and I'm sorry that I laughed, but when you're a detective working a case or you're an officer working a case, the last thing that you want is to have the sheriff show up at any case, and especially a homicide, because media is always involved, and we're trying to conduct an investigation that is done by the book, step by step. And when you have the sheriff, come out there, that causes a lot of duress on the detectives, and officers and deputies that are investigating. So I think it's a little bit weird, but, he's the sheriff. He can, show up wherever he wants.
The search that we saw yesterday near Annie's house, like all the FBI agents going in the yards, and then they just put out another release, the FBI did, that they're going to be searching along roadways in this area.
Jump a little bit.
I was so happy for her making it big, Local kid makes it big. It was really nice to see that. Delighted for her. She's such a sweetheart and a good-hearted person, caring, deferential, compassionate in what she does. Just a neat lady. So, one of the things I see or saw that happened was this sheriff's department, which has talented people, but it's my opinion that once they knew that this was not an individual who walked away and might have succumbed to the desert. Once they knew this was an abduction or a kidnapping, the federal entity should have been called in.
That's funny.
And it's my opinion that the FBI should be charged with this investigation, and this sheriff's department should subordinate itself to the FBI. Now, the local elements are clearly an aspect that are needed, and the sheriff's department has that capability to provide that, but we don't have forensics like the FBI has. We don't have
Yes, I already did an Epstein show earlier today with Pam Bondi testifying before Congress and the Judicial Oversight Committee. So if you're looking for Epstein stuff, we got that there too from earlier today. I believe it was around noon we did it.
Those who can look at personality types that might commit this kind of crime. And it should have been recognized initially that once this is...
And if you're here, it's because YouTube thinks I'm your guy. So welcome. Hi. Hi, everybody.
Labeled an abduction, get a task force together and bring on the FBI and ask them to take it over.
Why do you think that didn't happen?
Unfortunately,
it did
the
get
sheriff
heated in Congress this morning. By the way, a great live stream from earlier. They really did go ham in Congress today, arguing with each other.
Was an exorbitant ego, and he, in one case I can think of prior to this one, told the FBI he's the better investigator and he doesn't need their help. And that was a critical case that we needed their help with. This one, in particular, they have far more resources than the sheriff's department has. This county was established in 1865. It's a big county, and
it is a big county, and that's a big fella. And by the way, Nancy Grace, one of the best. Let's go.
Anna Guthrie's mother, Nancy Guthrie, missing day 11. As we go to air right now.
This is unbelievable. Day 11, this lady is still missing.
Now, it's catch and release. All of our hopes dashed last night when we learn a guy has been taken in for detainment In the Nancy Guthrie case, we learned that the hostage unit is on standby less than a mile away. That means the hostage is nearby, right? For our hopes to be dashed when we wake up this morning and find out that guy was released. He allegedly...
And that FBI HRT is really comparable to like the Delta Force of law enforcement, right?
Had nothing to do with Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Also, as we go to air right now, another missive has been received by TMZ, 30 Mile Zone. This time, the missive isn't the rat. They want to rat out the rat. They are stating they can give the name of the perp for 1 Bitcoin to a Bitcoin wallet. What is the Bitcoin worth? $66,000. Also,
all we know is the price changed a lot today, whatever it is.
At this hour, we learned that the FBI is combing the roadside, and they are in 3 locations. Campbell, they are in near Sinaloa, Tulsa, Northridge, Estrada. Those 4 places, not 3, 4. All the Catalina foothills, and they are looking along the roadside. Why? Was something tossed out of a car? A cell phone? A camera? That camera that was taken off Nancy Guthrie's front porch? What are they looking for? In addition to combing the Catalina foothills near the roadside, the FBI has launched a new search near Nancy Guthrie's home in the Catalina foothills north of Tucson. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us. Dave Mack joining me, Crime Stories investigative reporter. Dave, I'm going to get to the searches that are going on right now in the foothills of Catalina first. Then
make sure you subscribe. Big shout out to Nancy Grace.
We'll go through what happened last night. I've seen video footage of the FBI and I believe local law enforcement elsewhere combing the roadsides. Where are they?
They are in the Catalina foothills just north of Tucson, Nancy. And by the way, they're not just in one location. They have spread hundreds, plural, hundreds of
Matt Lauer did
FBI and sheriff's deputies are all over the area. They're searching roads, back roads, and they're not isolated to one specific area. They're covering all of it. And they are looking specifically for evidence that could have been tossed from a vehicle going down the road, maybe a road that doesn't get a lot of traffic in the foothills. And they are looking, they're going, you know what? There's so many people out there. They're asking anybody driving in those areas to be extra cautious. They're even warning media. I say they, it's the FBI. The FBI Phoenix office has taken to X to point out there are so many officials that are actually searching this area. Be careful. Get out of the way. They're on foot looking for evidence, Nancy.
Josh Colesrud joining us from this jurisdiction in Arizona, veteran criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor, and founder of the Colesrud Law Offices. Josh, exactly where would the Catalina foothills be for those that are not familiar with Arizona?
Yeah, the Catalina foothills are just outside of Tucson. It's an affluent area. You know, I'm from Phoenix. We kind of look at the Catalina foothills as the Scottsdale of the Tucson area. It's very nice and a fairly large retirement community.
Guys, you are seeing the searches now. The guys walking along the side of the road. This is from our friends at Fox News.
Yeah, we definitely covered that last night, Liz.
And as Dave Max
in last night's stream
said, we're showing you just these 2 guys, but it's all along. Let's go back and see that
video again.
It was
a wild ride last night.
It's all along the roadways. So what are they looking for? Brian Fitzgibbons joining us, Director Operations, USPA, Nationwide Security. Their specialty, locating missing people at USPAsecurity.com. Brian, I think they're looking for something thrown out of a window. And is this desperate? Maybe. Or maybe they got a tip. The number of tips has swollen There's a surge of tips after Savannah Guthrie's last
There you can
plea
see all
for
the photos of Nancy here with her daughter and without. Seemed like she was living a very full life.
the public's help. Did somebody call in and say, hey, I saw a guy throw what looked to be a cell phone out of a car on that night? But what could they be looking for, Brian? And what does this mean that they're literally beating the bushes?
Yeah, bingo. There are two reasons that law enforcement would be out there. And the first one, you've highlighted both of them. The first one is, hey, they got a tip. Someone in Tucson said, hey, I saw a suspicious vehicle parked alongside of the road. Maybe there was a swap that took place.
Bro says it's really nice
second
there.
vehicle came in. I saw something, and we want to go inspect that area.
Like
and law enforcement's out there following up on that tip. The second reason is exactly what you said. Very often in criminal activity, they're going to dump, regardless of what crime it is, they're going to dump that clothing or disguise so it's not in a vehicle with them. So there's a very good chance that this is.
It says Annie was stuck being the caretaker, so that's, you think for that she murked her?
Law enforcement doing exactly what they told us they're doing, which is all the blocking and tackling to do this the right way. And that's going to include covering those major roadways, avenues of egress away from Miss Guthrie's house to see if there's anything discarded along the road that now matches that video we have from the crime scene.
And Brian Fitzgibbons, you and I covered
With one of these black gloves, they could definitely get some DNA out of it.
Investigated ourselves the Delphi double murders of Abby and Libby. And if you will recall, it came out in court and it was really heartbreaking that a tip had been taken down at the beginning of the investigation. And that tip had been translated incorrectly. And I believe that they reversed Richard Allen, or they reversed the name of the street. So all of this time when people were searching and so much was happening trying to solve the case, it was right under their noses. But the tip got screwed up and overlooked. There's so many citizen tips. I always use the Gabby Petito case as a great example of citizen sleuth. Everyone was looking for Gabby Petito in her white Ford Transit. And you used the RN database? How?
Yeah, the suspect pulled off his jacket and he left it in a drainage ditch behind the murder scene. And so we pulled that number through the Federal Trade Commission, and we were able to find out, when the item was manufactured, who the distributors were, and then we traced it to a store in a mall nearby, and we were able to go to that mall and pull the purchase receipt of all of those types of jackets. And then we had the credit card numbers, and we just kind of, through elimination, ended up with our guy.
I didn't want to interrupt you. I understand it that far, but how did you get it into evidence?
Easily. We just showed them the chain of custody, how we did it. And the DA was able to...
And Chris McDonough, did you get him?
Yes, he actually, first-degree murder during the commission of a robbery. Yeah, and the victim was David Tabor. Yeah, it was three nationals, by the way, from over the border.
RN number. That's amazing. In our effort to try and figure out, and I guarantee you did this as local law enforcement. No telling what the FBI can do, because let me just throw this at you. Everyone was wondering, how did they get the images off the front porch? Let's just drink them in for another moment, because this is a big, huge break. Okay. Janine Driver. Janine, thank you for being with us. So many things to ask you. I'd like to get to the guy that was caught and released, but right now he's not a player in this scenario. I want you to look instead
catch and release
at the guy, the known perp.
And this is the perp that was
on Nancy Guthrie's porch.
On the porch.
What can you tell me?
All right, Nancy and listener at home, viewer at home. What the police are looking for most likely right now is Does this man look familiar to you? The way he is moving, we have what's called movement DNA. Look as he walks out here. If you've ever been in a grocery store and you're like, wait a minute, is that my sister? Or in a movie theater, and someone walked by, you're like, wait a minute, is that my neighbor? We all have movement DNA. There are about 9 billion people on the planet. There are 36 billion different ways.
I mean, there's just something really wrong about it. Let's jump back out to JLR.
It's not really, it's just unknown and not knowing what happened to Nancy. And, you know, my wife and her family grew up with Savannah and Annie, so they know the Guthries well. My mother-in-law was right over there. So it's pretty close to home. Yeah. Pretty sad. Yeah. So that's all I really got to say.
So earlier,
I was talking to a friend of mine, and she saw it.
Gotcha.
There's comments there.
Yeah.
People like, what is she doing? I live in the neighborhood. There's so many neighbors walking up and down the street.
this is from earlier to JLR.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. Cool. Thank you. Oh my God, I saw you on.
And this is a phone call that the lady made here. So there's Brian Enton walking by. I'm surprised JLR didn't say anything about that. Brian Enton just walked past in the camera. And here's this lady. This is very interesting.
Is he there now?
Get that again. Okay, so this lady's going to walk up and start talking about Tommaso.
Okay, 1 2 1 2. That is turned on now. That was my fault. 1 2 1 2.
There we go.
Is he there now?
You know, I don't know.
Like, was he put on leave?
He's asking her some questions. Here we go.
JLR? Didn't you say you knew? I was listening to you. You said you knew Tommaso?
So friends of mine
Yeah.
are taught. He's a teacher at a school close by here called Basis, Laurel Valley.
Uh-huh.
And he's a teacher there for my friends.
Oh,
Yeah.
for your friends. And I heard you saying they're all like supporting him and everyone's.
Yeah, they think he's a really good guy. Yeah.
Is he there now?
You know, I don't know.
Like, was he put on leave or?
Let me see. You want me to find out?
Yeah, can you find out?
Yeah.
So this is just someone walking by JLR, right, who happens to know a little something. That's how this works. And she happens to know of Tommaso.
What channel are you looking at?
JLR.
JLR?
Yeah.
Hey, so I'm hearing these reports. There's about 2,000.
And she is calling a friend to ask.
One of the news reporters with JLR is asking me if Tommaso is still teaching at Basis or did he take some time off? No, you're not being coded. No one's giving your name. No one's giving your name. Okay, she's not sure.
She's not sure.
She's not sure if he's. Yeah, she said she's not sure if he's.
But
taking
everyone
time
there
off
supporting
or if he's
him?
still there. Yeah, she's not sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is she a teacher there or something?
No, she has. My friend. I'm not going to say her name, but
Yeah,
she
yeah.
has some kids that go
Okay.
there. Yeah.
Basis,
I heard
from
you
what
saying
I'm
everyone
seeing
there's,
right
like,
here,
supporting
from what I'm looking up, Basis is a charter school.
Yeah. Everyone says he's a great guy. That's what I said. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, everyone. My friend said 100% of the parents are supporting him. They all
Parents?
said he's
All the
like-
parents are supporting
yeah.
him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they all said he's amazing.
What's he teach there?
What subject?
Yeah, what subject? Like, was it biology or something?
Yeah, he's just one of the teachers. My friend, who I'm not giving her name,
Yeah.
she's a woman that lives here. I'm not going to say her profession or anything about my friend, but she just said he's a teacher at Basis. That's all I know.
What a yenta.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Jeez.
Yeah, so
What do you think?
Okay.
She calls up somebody there at the school.
Well, let's jump right to live and see what's going on.
You know, when I'm back into my mind, too, she says,
See where you're.
So this is the scene now live.
Hopefully you wake up in the
That's
morning.
pretty wild, huh?
Yeah.
Lady just walks by,
Hopefully we'll
starts
get
giving
some
them
good news.
information.
Folks, I'm headed over to Annie, and I'm gonna stay online. You guys can take a drive. We could just see how dark it is when we drive. But I'm gonna let me put this down.
Catch you tomorrow.
Yeah. Thank you, 857. Be safe, brother. Thanks for coming out and saying hi, and thank you for the burger.
Everybody's
buy him
bringing JLR food.
Steak. I don't
That's
know
great.
what he likes, but
I hope you guys do that for me if I go out and do one of these things, right?
7 Tucson. What should I get him? A steak? Take him out to a steak dinner? But we can't do that now. We got business to take care of here.
Well, as you can see, the FBI is going to continue what they're doing. This is wild. This is wild what's going on with this lady, this Nancy. So, I mean, all the technology, all the press conferences, all the political statements boil down to this one fragile hope, right? That Nancy Guthrie is still alive somewhere, waiting for someone to make the right move at the right time.
Resolution, outcome here.
And a race against the clock doesn't mean, you know, dramatic movie music. It means exhausted agents starting at 3 a.m. all the way to 3 a.m. Families jumping at every phone notification, and a nation slowly realizing that time is not your ally or your enemy. All right. So until we hear otherwise, there is room for hope. But hope without action is really just a feeling. So I'll be watching for any shift, new statements, new searches, new clues, and I'll be back live the moment something real breaks. If you want to stay ahead of the story, instead of catching the sanitized recap tomorrow, make sure you're subscribed. We do this live all the time. Turn on all notifications and hit like so this coverage keeps reaching people while we're off air. Drop your final thoughts in the comments and in the chat. Do you believe the clock is still on Nancy's side, or has the system already waited too long? So thanks for watching. Stay sharp. Let me pop this right here. Whoa, close up. And just remember, behind every theory, there is a real 84-year-old woman whose life is hanging in the balance and matters more than any headline. I thank everybody for coming out and joining me today. Thank you, mods. Thank you for all the super chats. Like, subscribe, share, hit your notifications so you can catch all my upcoming live streams on this topic and many more. Remember, the truth is a moving target, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you for joining me. Have a good one.